Can everybody see the red dot in the corner?
Yeah.
Ma'am.
Great, thanks, Megan. All right, so moving on to the role of secretary. So the secretary shall serve at the pleasure of the speaker. The secretary shall produce the minutes and proceedings for each meeting of council and submit them to council for approval. During each meeting, the secretary shall keep a record of business conducted during the meeting to be distributed to officers of council immediately following any meeting for the convenience of the officers of council. Would anybody like to put their name forward for this position? Jason does make a good point in the chat. You can nominate other people for the position in the chat as well. All right, so, oh, sorry, Megan, would you like to speak?
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this is not a completely thankless task, and it should also be noted that the secretary is eligible to receive an honoraria. If that changes anyone's mind about committing their time to this.
Thank you, Megan. Mahavir, would you like to speak?
If we are an officer of the council, can we still be part of the committees of the council?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Would you like to put your name forward?
Not for the secretary, sorry, thanks.
Great. All right, so far I see Alana Guevara, do you accept this nomination? Alana?
Yes.
Great. Canon Sharma, do you accept the nomination?
Nope.
All right, so hearing no other nominations, be it resolved that council elects Alana Guevara as secretary. I will put that in the chat now.
Point of order, did someone nominate Matthew Suarez?
I believe they were second, Canon. Oh, I know. I believe Canon was asking for a direct response to Matthew.
Oh, okay. Then in that case, I don't know that we elect Alana since she's the default secretary.
Well, I'm also the default speaker of council, so we have to pass the motion.
Okay, go on.
Thank you. So again, in the chat, you will thumbs up if you are in favor. Wow react. Oh, one moment. Jason, there is a point of privilege. Are you able to zoom in on the Word document? I'll continue. If you are in favor, you will thumbs up. If you are Against, you will wow react. If you are an abstention, you will sad react. I'm going to give people a few more seconds to cast their vote. Last call for votes. Okay, motion passes. We will move on to the election of the deputy speaker. The deputy speaker is the second presiding officer of council. The deputy speaker shall preside whenever the speaker is unable or willing to do so. This deputy speaker shall assist the speaker in fulfilling her duties. When possible, this should include monitoring the conference system during the meetings to ensure that councilors participating remotely in meetings are fully included in deliberations and voting. Would anybody like to be nominated or nominate anyone for this position? Jason, I can nominate Matthew Suarez for you. I also see that Evelyn nominates herself as well.
Do these nominations have to be seconded?
No, but they have to be accepted if someone else made them.
Okay.
All right, so I'm just putting together the poll in the main council teams. So the way that this will work is you will go into the Teams channel, you will select your first choice, and then we will try our best to do some, I guess, ranked ballots because we don't have the option to rank. We will be kind of doing this vote multiple times. So you'll pick your first choice. Whoever has the least amount of votes will be removed, and then we will do the vote again until the position is filled.
Abby,
Would you like to speak?
yeah, before we say, can you like tell people how much of like working commitment it is, like how many hours per week usually it is?
I'm actually glad that we have Jason on the call here because he'll be able to speak to the role of deputy speaker well. Jason, would you like to speak?
Yeah, so I think I see it like for me it was a heavy role because I took it because like the way I approached it last year with Michael was that he had a lot of stuff to do as president. Therefore, I did almost all of the out of meeting duties of speaker as deputy speaker, like assembling the agenda and other sorts of routine tasks. So it became a role. I have trouble quantifying it in terms of hours, but it became a reasonably heavy role. But that is something like the exact weight of how much work you do is something you would be discussing with Abby afterwards. And it also depends on like how comfortable you feel doing certain tasks.
And Cannon, would you like to speak?
Just wondering, are we gonna hear like a short statement from all the people who are running, or no?
Yes, we're going to do a short statement from all the people who are running. But first, we're going to make sure that everyone accepts their nomination. So if I'm seeing no more nominations for the role of deputy speaker, so I'm going to go through the list, make sure that everybody accepts their nomination. So John Hunt, do you accept your nomination?
Yeah.
Evelyn Gondososwanto.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Thank you. Always correct me with names. Do you accept this nomination?
Definitely.
Great. Matthew Schwarzy, do you accept this nomination?
It's Matthew Schwartz.
Thank
Seeing
you.
the amount of other interested people, I will not accept my nomination and let someone else take it.
Great. Thank you, Matthew. Angela Souza, do you accept the nomination?
I will not accept my nomination.
Thank you. Mahavir Jai Ukrani.
I'd like to accept my nomination as well. Thanks.
Great. And Carl Zhu.
I would also like to accept my nomination.
Amazing. So what I've done is I've created a poll in the general council teams. I'm going to remove those who did not accept their nomination, and I'm going to open up voting now. So you will pick your first choice for deputy speaker, and then we will repeat until there is one person left.
Abby, can we give the opportunity to speak?
Correct. Yes. Thank you, Megan. So we'll start it off. John, would you like to give a 20-second speech about why you believe you should hold this position?
Sure, Abby, thank you. For the better part of the last year, I've been the speaker of MathSoc. I've been putting together the agendas, taking in forms, pretty much running everything to do with council for the society for the past 8 months. I feel like that knowledge is going to be very transferable, and so will my knowledge of WUSA as a whole, having been involved for the better part of 3 years.
Thank you, John. Evelyn, would you like to speak?
Yes, for sure. Thank you. All right. So this is my first time with WUSA, getting involved with WUSA, so I'm very excited. I was thinking that deputy speaker would be a great chance to get my feet wet, considering 3 years of high school. I've held speaker similar roles where I've helped to coordinate Model UN conferences in a speaker kind of role. And I want to bring that to this position to get my feet wet with WUSA. So very excited to hopefully be deputy speaker, but it seems very exciting.
Great. Javier, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Abby. I've also been the deputy speaker in the Ontario Students' Council as well. So for the entire grade 12, I was serving there, and then it has given me a lot of experience on how this role works. And then I know it takes a lot of time commitment, as Jason previously mentioned, and I think I do have the time commitment that I would like to put in for the deputy speaker role and preside as the speaker in the office when the president and the speaker is not available. Thanks.
Thank you. And Carl, would you like to speak?
For sure. So this past year, I was involved in both the MASSOC and Art Student Union as a first-year representative, giving me sufficient and a lot of experience and knowledge on how councils should be run. As well, in high school, I was the moderator for our school student council, a school of 2,200 students. So I believe throughout my past experiences, I have the skills and the experiences for a great candidate.
Thank you so much, everyone. So voting should be open in the general council teams. You'll cast your vote for your top choice, and then we'll start the process over.
Just a quick point of privilege. I can't seem to select a name or anything on the poll. I don't know why. It seems to just be a me thing.
Alana, I thought I couldn't either. In the tab, you're going to see, you're supposed to see kind of like two messages that are linked to MS Forms. One of them is where you vote, and the other is where you see the results.
See, I didn't scroll up. Cool.
Just a point of technical information. Is it possible to accidentally vote multiple times on the form? Would that affect the poll, or is it just you change your vote, kind of like how they do it in Facebook and stuff?
So if you vote, if you vote and then change your mind, it should only record the vote that you selected most recently.
Yeah,
okay,
I just
so it's like more like switching around, rather kind of like iClickers.
Exactly.
Man, I'm gonna miss iClickers next time.
I'm going to give everyone a few more seconds to cast their vote.
Is now joining.
I'm going to give you a few more seconds to cast your vote. If you cannot access the council teams, please send me a personal message and I will delete your message after it is recorded.
Can whoever just joined the call by phone please identify themselves?
Hi, I'm Amanda. I was on the MS call before, but my internet disconnected, so I just called in instead. I'm the Kitchener campus counselor.
Last call for votes. All right, so we're going to start the voting over again, removing Carl Zhu.
Cannon has a point of information.
Yes, Cannon, would you like to speak?
Since John got 58% of the vote, why do we still need to vote again?
Yeah, actually, yeah. And following IRV, yeah, you could say actually that John is now elected since he got a majority.
Great, so we can just move on then.
Yes, I think so.
Great, so I will put the full motion into the chat. So everybody should see the motion in the chat. Again, if you are in favor of the motion, please thumbs up. If you are against, you will wow react.
Point of order.
Oh, yes.
You actually do need seconders for these motions now.
Great, thank you, Jason. Can I get a mover?
I'll move.
Can you identify yourself?
Sorry, Cannon.
Great, and Alana is seconded. All right.
Alana, can you consent to seconding the last two motions also for speaker and secretary?
Yes, I second speaker, secretary, and deputy speaker.
Great, thank you. All right, so be it resolved that council elects John Hunt as deputy speaker. If you are in favor, you will thumbs up. If you are against, you will wow react. And if you are in abstention, you will sad react. I will give everyone a few more seconds. Okay, motion carries with 23 in favor and 1 abstention. We will move on to the position of Assistant Secretary. I'll read a brief statement. The Assistant Secretary shall assist the Secretary of Council in carrying out their duties. Would anybody like to nominate themselves for this position or nominate someone else? Yes, Jason?
I'd just like to comment that while the base role of the Assistant Secretary is fairly light, you are also part of the Officers of Council, which does give you the opportunity, if you want to optionally get like help the other officers in other ways, that gives you that chance.
Also noting that this position will be taking minutes in case the secretary is unavailable.
Last call for nominations. All right, seeing none, I'm going to call out your name if you've been nominated and ask you if you accept the nomination. So Edward Yang, do you accept your nomination?
Respectfully, no.
Thank you. Evelyn, do you accept your nomination?
Yep.
Great. And Carl, do you accept your nomination?
Yes.
Great. So what we're going to do now is give you an opportunity to provide a brief statement, and then we will go back to the general teams channel and we will cast our votes there. Evelyn, would you like to start?
Yes, for sure. All right. So Assistant Secretary, going off of what I think Jason said, the chance to be able to help the officer team as well as the secretary, I feel like this is a really great role to get my feet wet, especially since I really want to get myself immersed with WUSA now that I'm one of the counselors for engineering. And it sounds really exciting and would be very enthusiastic about getting this role.
Carl, would you like to speak?
For sure. Yeah, so like I've mentioned, like over the past year, like I've really analyzed all of the meeting notes for like MASSOC and just really like understood what it's like to take down documentation for each of our meetings, which I believe would really give me sufficient and really, applicable experience for this role as well. Like I love like multitasking, and I believe I can also make a contribution as a counselor while taking down meeting notes. So like I believe like I have a lot of good experiences and skills that I could bring for the assistant secretary position.
Great, thank you, everyone. I'm going to open up the poll on the general teams channel. You will cast your vote for your top choice. I'm going to open the poll now, and you will have until 1:22 to cast your vote.
Can the person who just joined the meeting please identify themselves by name?
It is 1:22. I'm going to, I can't physically close the vote, but I will note that Evelyn has surpassed the amount of votes she needs to get this position. So I will put the motion in the chat. Can I get a mover and a seconder? So be it resolved that Council elects Evelyn Gondo Siswanto as Assistant Secretary. Can I get a mover and a seconder?
Stephanie, mover.
Great. And can I get a seconder?
I'll second.
Who is that? Cannon?
Edward.
Edward. Thank you, Edward. Again, if you are in favor, you will thumbs up. If you are against, you will wow react. And if you are abstaining, you will sad react. Okay, motion passes with 21 in favor and 2 in abstention. We will now move on to the ratification of society and pro tem designates. So pursuant to policy 55, society presidents and designates on council, the selection of a designate or appointment of a pro tempore counselor to fill a temporary vacancy by a constituency society must be ratified by Students' Council at the first regular meeting following such selection. Ratification may not be unreasonably withheld by council. So the motion is, be it resolved that council ratifies Victoria Ikeno as designate for the Renascent Academic Students' Council for the spring 2020 term. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Ina moves, Evelyn seconds. Jason, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I just want, just so everyone knows, this is very much a routine motion. What this is that societies can choose to have a specific designate other than their president attend these meetings and participate in these meetings. So this is the selection that they have made for this coming term, and it's just a routine matter that we ratify it.
Thank you, Jason. All right, so I will be putting the motion into the chat. If you are in favor, you will thumbs up. If you are against, you will surprise react, and if you are abstaining, you will sad react. Motion passes with 22 in favor. We will now move on to the approval of the agenda. I will note 2 amendments to the agenda. I would like to amend the agenda to remove the approval of minutes, as there are no minutes to approve for this council meeting. They will be approved by the outgoing speaker and deputy speaker. And I would also like to include the election of the council member for the chief returning officer at large seat. Jason, would you like to respond?
With regards to approval of the minutes, I believe my interpretation of the rules is since the last governing year has actually ended, that option of approval no longer exists, or simply becoming at a later council meeting when those minutes are ready.
I believe Council Procedure 9 says that if we don't approve the minutes by April 20th, they have to be approved by the speaker and deputy speaker, but we can double check that. And if I'm incorrect, then we can bring those to the June meeting. At this time, we don't have any meeting minutes to approve. So I'd like to motion to amend the agenda to remove the minutes for approval and include the election of the counselor to the chief returning officer screening panel. And John Hunt seconds.
Did you type up a motion?
I'm typing up the motion right now.
Okay.
I've added the motion into the chat. If you are in favor, please thumbs up. If you are against, please surprise react. And if you are in abstention, please sad react. Okay, motion carries with 27 in favor and 1 abstention. So be it resolved that council approve the agenda as, or sorry, is there any other amendments that need to be made to the agenda? Jason, would you like to speak?
I'd just like to comment in preparing the agenda that, myself, when I was helping Abby, accidentally forgot to include 2 names in the listing of attendees. That was absolutely just an accidental mistake.
Thank you, Jason. Hearing no further amendments to the agenda, be it resolved that council approve the agenda as amended. Can I get a mover and a seconder?
You don't for the agenda. For the agenda, if there's no further amendments, it's just assumed and we move on with the meeting.
Great, so the speaker assumes the agenda as amended. We will now move on to the reports. We will begin with the executive reports. So each executive will highlight a key aspect of their written report and an oral report that lasts no longer than 2 minutes. It will be followed immediately by a question period lasting no longer than 10 minutes per executive. All written reports can be found in Appendix A. So I will begin. We've just started our first week. And we're still finishing up our transition. This next week, we will have our first board of directors meeting, as well as starting to prepare our annual plan, which will be presented to council at the June meeting. Are there any questions about my report? Hearing none, we will move on to the report of the Vice President, Operations and Finance. Alana, would you like to speak?
We are moving forward with the preparation of the draft budget right now, and we are communicating with the societies and GSA on some applications for some COVID-related reliefs, and thus far it's just been a lot of transition meetings and meeting all the new people, and I really look forward to having all the seats on the committees filled so that we can move forward with making some decisions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Does anybody have any questions for the Vice President, Operations and Finance? Ina, would you like to speak? Or sorry, Edward, would you like to speak?
Yes, I have a question regarding the bomber survey that was circulated. So my understanding was that we had conducted a similar survey about almost a year ago, and a report compiled. I'm just curious about what you're trying to get out of the second survey.
Yes, I have not been involved with the release of that second survey. I can add that to my list and ask Alex Kelly about that for you. But I do know that we are currently in discussion with PlanOps and other people around campus relating to that bomber project, and I will have an update for you on that at the next council meeting for sure.
Thank you.
Ina, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. So I was wondering, would you be happen due to the current situation we're in with societies, would it be useful to create a special committee for all the VP finance for each of the society to communicate within one another? That way, everybody, it would be chaired by you, Elena, or your you prefer chair, just so that everybody is on the same page in terms of how society are handling finances as well as budgets at this uncertain times.
I think that's a really good idea. I would have to look into getting that done and the feasibility of it. But I will also add that to my list, and I will send you an email on that this week.
Thank you.
Cannon, direct response.
Actually, never mind.
Great. Stephanie, would you like to speak?
Hi there. I was wondering if you could speak to the justification for putting iNews onto Uber Eats as WUSA Mart. Like, what was the decision making behind that? If you happen to know.
That is related to a few HR considerations, which I cannot go into detail about. That was a decision made by the previous executive and the commercial operations management. And I think we're just going to see how it goes for now, for like the next month, and then I will assess whether I think it's something that's actually worth us continuing or not.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions for the Vice President? Hearing none, we're going to move on to the report of the Vice President Education. Megan, would you like to speak?
Yeah, so just in addition to my written report, Matt, the outgoing Vice President Education, and I have been invited to speak at the House of Commons Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disabilities. So we will be doing that on Monday. So I have been very, very busy working with Matt to prepare speaking notes and a brief. So I'll probably highlight some of that in my next report to council, so you can see what we're talking about. The reason why we've been invited to speak at this committee is to talk about the government's response to COVID-19. So as Steph mentioned before we were starting the meeting, CESB hasn't yet been implemented. So it's things like that, outstanding concerns that students have with respect to the government's response that we will be highlighting in the meeting on Monday. And I welcome any questions.
John, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Megan, is it going to be one of your priorities to try and lobby to the government to get the CESB opened up to all students rather than only domestic students?
Yes, that is absolutely a key priority. The inclusion of international students is something that is highlighted in the brief that Matt has developed, basically citing internationals like international students' economic and cultural importance for Canada, as well as the fact that they have all of the same expenses that domestic students have, while not necessarily having support from their home governments. So that is another one of our key talking points. Thank you. Jairo?
Hello. Yes. So I have a question actually in regards to what John asked in terms of so I noticed that the deadline to pay for the entire tuition for international students hasn't changed. Like for anyone hasn't changed, but especially for international students, because like I've heard of people that do, like they receive support from their own government back in their home country, and it's hard because they are currently undergoing throughout the pandemic, and they do not have the resources to, to fulfill those liabilities that they have toward their students. So, are you planning to talk to the university in terms of that, moving like the deadlines for to pay for the fees?
At this point, I don't think there's been any discussions about moving the deadline for fee payment. I know that the university is looking to make a decision on fall term before June 1st, which would mean that students have all the information that they need to decide with respect to fall. But for international students who aren't able to make that fee payment deadline, I would suggest reaching out to Alana, and she can direct those students to resources like emergency bursaries and loans that are available. Because right now we haven't had any discussion about moving the date for those fees. And to be frank with you, I think that would be an infeasible ask, because those kinds of deadlines are pretty central to how the university manages their budgets and cash flows and the like. So I don't suspect that we would get any traction asking to change something like that. The other thing that we're working on with respect to international students is I'm asking to increase the amount of money that international students are eligible to receive from WUSA's COVID-19 Student Emergency Support Fund. Now that domestic students are going to be able to receive CESB, we're hoping that there's less pressure on the fund, and then we can increase the support available for international students. So we're opening up discussions with advancement to that effect.
Stephanie, would you like to speak?
Yeah. So wait, let me find it. At the very bottom page of the agenda where we're ratifying commissioners, I noticed that there's no individual listed for the Multimunicipal Affairs Commissioner. Is this just because you didn't find a suitable candidate, or were there decisions made to like cut out that position for now?
Thank you for the question. This was a budgetary decision. So because of predicted decreases in enrollment for the fall term and decreases in fee revenue for the spring term, the organization is looking at savings in several areas. In combination with Matt, we talked about the potential workload for a municipal affairs AVP. And the conclusion was that there would be relatively minimal work in the municipal affairs portfolio for the spring term, especially because there is not as many students residing in the region. So the remaining duties of the Municipal Affairs Commissioner are being absorbed between myself and the AVP Provincial and Federal Affairs. And then I'll be reevaluating in the fall to see if I would like to hire a student to take that role on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cannon, would you like to speak?
So it's, I don't know, like, I think Alana would be the best person, but Megan probably could. Do we know how much of the emergency fund has been used to date and how much is still left that for students to access?
I do not have access to that information, and I'm honestly not familiar with the inner workings of the fund. So let me make a note on that, and I'll see if I can get back to you.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions for the Vice President Education? Hearing none, we'll move on to the report of the Vice President Student Life. Nada, would you like to speak?
Yep, thank you. So hi all. There's really not much to say other than what I've provided in my written report. But I do have two things to kind of highlight or correct. So first off, the food bank has changed its name to be the Food Support Service, and so it's no longer referred to as the food bank. That's just for all of your information. And then for the transgenerational student survey, that will be extended to May 20th and not May 15th. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Cannon, go ahead.
For the orientation, there's something mentioned about a co-op, but are we still continuing with that co-op, or did we reduce that co-op to a part-time hours?
So it was a potential collaboration. I have not heard from co-op yet. I put this as kind of to be on your radar, but I haven't heard anything yet. So I don't have information to provide.
Edward, go ahead.
Just to clarify, by co-op, do you mean an individual co-op student, or do you mean co-op as in cooperative education, the department?
Cooperative education, the department.
Thank you.
Stephanie, go ahead. Stephanie?
No, I was just drawing attention to the fact that he put 5 and it was confusing.
Great, thank you. Cannon, direct response. Cannon, would you like to speak?
Oh, sorry, I turned on my video instead of my mic, my mistake. So you said that when you said co-op, you meant basically SECA. Why would they be working on orientation events?
So I have as little information as you do. Again, I put this in the report in hopes to have received any updates by now, but I have not. So, yeah.
Just to follow up, because I do know orientation does have like a co-op student who worked with them over summer. So are you sure it's not them?
A co-op student?
Yeah, because they usually they hire a summer co-op student for orientation department.
The information that I received was about the cooperative education department.
All right.
I will let you know once I get any updates about that, because I know it's a little bit confusing. So just hang in there. I will get back to you as soon as I can.
Would anyone else like to ask a question of the Vice President Student Life? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Board of Directors report, which is normally given by the Chair of the Board, but we haven't ratified the Chair of the Board, and I don't know if Ben is on the call right now, would like to say a few words. If not, we can move on.
I am on the call, but yeah, pretty much the first board meeting is this Thursday. Look forward to reporting on that business at the June meeting, where I'll submit a written report. Feel free to email chair@wusa.ca if you have any questions. Thanks.
We will now move on to the representative reports. So these reports are to be delivered orally or in writing by councillors or their constituency caucus. Any questions relating to the report or any other matter may be asked after the oral report. I received a few questions in the email about these written reports. You are welcome to submit a report during the call for agenda period. If not, you can give an oral report. I will go through this list and I will call out the caucuses individually. If you are from that caucus and you would like to speak, provide a report. If you have nothing to say, just speak up so I know someone is here and we will move on. So we'll start with the Applied Health Sciences Caucus. Do you have a report?
Hi, Marie. On behalf of the Applied Health Sciences Caucus, we do not currently have a report.
Thank you, Marie. Arts Caucus.
Hi, everyone. We also don't really have a report at this time.
Thank you, Rebecca. Engineering Caucus.
Engineering is doing fine. We have a new batch of counselors, as everyone does, and a lot of the NSOC council meetings are also moving online, so we're all just transitioning over here.
Thank you, Edward. Environment Caucus.
Hi, Stephanie here from the Environment Caucus. Mostly in terms of updates, we're trying to figure out what spring term is going to look like in terms of student involvement, any sort of advocacy we're going to do. We're trying to figure out to what extent our endowment fund is going to work. So there's going to be lots of meetings and conversations that occur. So look forward to like a larger update the next council meeting.
Thank you, Stephanie. Mathematics Caucus.
Hi, this is Ina from the Math Caucus. And so in terms of Math Talk, we will be having our first council meeting tomorrow night. We are also in the middle of our spring 20 by-elections. And yeah, and then we're like every other society, we are just also planning about what we're gonna be doing for the spring term. Most of our events will be transferred online. We're hoping to continue our Thursday games night, but just changing it to an online method of gaming, and we are hoping to spread more advocacy, considering that this is hard times for all the students, especially considering we have the hugest international student population in our faculty, so many of them might be abroad, and they would need advocacy more than ever.
Great, thank you, Ina. I did notice that I forgot to ask if there are any questions for the caucuses. So does anybody have any questions for the caucuses that have presented so far? Hearing none, I will move on to the Science Caucus.
Okay, hello everyone, it's Nix from Science Council. So the SciSoc execs are currently working on planning the rest of the term and getting started with the board of directors. And I believe they're organizing a meeting for some time within the following week. And other than that, we have no updates. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have a representative from, oh, sorry. Are there any questions for the Science Caucus? Seeing none, do we have a representative from the Cambridge Caucus?
Hi, this is Jason from Cambridge campus, and we don't have anything to report at this time.
Thank you, Jason. Do I have a representative from Kitchener?
Hi there, this is Amanda from the Kitchener campus. I don't have anything to report at this time.
Thank you. Do I have a representative from Stratford?
Hi, this is Nahida from the Stratford campus, and I don't have anything to report at this time.
Thank you, Mahida. Do I have a representative from St. Jerome's?
Hi, this is Chanel. I'm representing St. Jerome's. Other than we having a meeting this week, we don't have anything to report.
Thank you. Do I have a representative from Renison?
Hi, this is Vicky. I don't have too much to report except that the student council for Renison is now finding new officers. So that's all the report that I have.
Thank you, Vicky. We will now move on to the officers of council reports. So these are to be delivered orally. Any questions relating to the reports or any other matter may be asked following the oral report. Seeing as we just elected the speaker, deputy speaker, and secretary, I'll ask if there is anything you would like to say, but as the speaker, I do not have anything to report at this time. Deputy Speaker, is there anything you would like to say?
Yes, in my few minutes of being Deputy Speaker, I have prepared lunch, and I am currently eating that during the meeting. I know it's multitasking, but I assure you I'm paying rapt attention.
Does anybody have any questions for the Deputy Speaker?
I do.
Stephanie, would you like to speak?
What kind of lunch?
French toast, my specialty.
Ina, would you like to speak?
Is there beverages beside your lunch? And if so,
Okay.
what type?
Everyone. I think this is out of order. We're not going to do meme questions. If you have a serious question for the deputy speaker, please add yourself to the speaking list. Thank you, Matthew. Angela, would you like to speak?
Never mind. It was about French toast, so I won't.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to the secretary. Is there anything you would like to say?
I have nothing to report on this part.
Thank you, Elena. We'll now move on to standing committees or commissioner reports. So we will begin with the report of the Policies and Procedures Committee. We do have amendments to Procedure 25 and 26 to be passed today. So the motion on the floor is, be it resolved that Council amends Procedures 25 and 26 as recommended by the Policies and Procedures Committee in Appendix B. I am the mover. Can I get a seconder? Oh, Jason, would you like to speak?
Get your seconder first.
Oh, Nada is the seconder. So I will move and Nada will second. Jason, would you like to speak to this motion?
The speaking order is still like mover first, then seconder, and I just put my name on the list for after that.
I have nothing to add to this proposed amendment. Nada, would you like to speak? I'm not hearing Nada, so Jason, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, so this is pretty much a routine motion. At the April council meeting, and these amendments got presented for like initial first reading, which were made by a variety of people. For the most part, like, and since then they got reviewed by the Policies and Procedures Committee, the outgoing one, that made some further amendments, which if you like looked at the agenda, most of it is like minor in nature, like it was mostly just updating the document. And just so you know, this is a good idea of some of the things that PPC usually tends to do often if you might be interested in sitting on that committee. So yeah, you can see, like, well, hopefully you looked at these amendments in advance of these meetings. So yeah, I wasn't the primary person responsible, but I can try to answer questions if there are about any of these amendments.
Great. Does anybody have any questions about the proposed amendments? If you have a question, you can put a 1 in the chat to get on the speaking list. Seeing none, we'll vote on the motion. So I will have added it to the chat. Be it resolved that Council amends Procedure 25 and 26 as recommended by the Policies and Procedures Committee in Appendix B. If you are in favor, you will thumbs up. If you are opposed, you will surprise react. And if you are in abstention, you will sad react. The motion passes with 23 in favor and 1 abstention, with John Hunt noted an abstention. We will now move on to the ratification of commissioners for the fiscal year 2021. So be it resolved that council ratifies the commissioners selected for fiscal year 2021 as shown in Appendix C. I am the mover. Can I get a seconder?
I'll second.
Was that Megan?
Yes.
Thank you. Megan Town seconded. I'll begin. I'll speak to this motion. This is standard. If anybody has any questions about the ratification of commissioners, please indicate in the chat. But these are the commissioners that we have hired. And again, council cannot, I guess, withhold the commissioners if unless there is a serious what's the word? I guess opposition to a commissioner holding this position. Sorry, cannot unreasonably withhold. Thank you, Jason. That is the wording that my brain was looking for. Does anybody have any questions about these commissioners? Or Megan, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yeah, I would just say on behalf of myself, and I assume on behalf of NADA, we are very excited to bring these AVPs onto our team for the upcoming year.
Seeing no questions in the chat, I will put the motion into the chat to be voted on. So be it resolved that council ratifies the commissioners selected for fiscal year 2021 as shown in Appendix C. If you are in favor, please thumbs up. If you are opposed, please surprise react. And if you are abstaining, please sad react. And please indicate in the chat if you would like your vote noted. The motion passes unanimously with 26 in favor. We will now move on to the to general orders, election of committees. So in accordance with procedure 10, any seats on these committees remaining vacant after the approval of this motion may be filled by that committee subject to subsequent ratification by council. So we will begin with standing committees of council. Again, we will be doing these votes similar to the votes that we did for officers, and then we will vote on the motion as I'll read it. So we will start with the councillor seats. The way this is going to work is I will introduce the committee and read a brief summary. If you are interested in nominating yourself for this committee, you can indicate in the chat, and then we will hold a vote. You will have about 20 seconds to give a brief introduction to yourself and why you think you should be a part of that committee. Does anybody have any questions about the election process before we begin? Great, so we will start with the election.
Well, actually, did you get a mover and seconder for the main motion?
for the main motion for policies and procedures?
No, for this for the overall committee's motion. Did you get one?
Oh, no, I did not. Thank you, Jason. Cannon moves and Ina seconds.
I think Delaney seconds before I did.
Oh, great. Delaney seconds. Thank you, Ina. I'll begin with the Policies and Procedures Committee elections. So the Policies and Procedures Committee ensures that the policies and procedures of the corporation are consistent with the bylaws, reviews student counselor policy proposals with the assistance of the RPO, conducts research to develop and draft policies, proposes amendments, renewals, and newly developed policies and procedures to council. The committee works under close advisement with legal counsel, staff support, and other parties as appropriate. Would anybody like to put their name, would any counselor like to put their name forward for this committee? Last call for nominations. So I believe because there are only 2 counselors who have nominated themselves for this position and there are 2 seats to be filled, they are acclaimed. We will move on to the members at large for the Policies and Procedures Committee. I have Matthew, oh, sorry, Jason. Would you like to speak?
I would like to make a nomination.
Great, Jason. Go ahead.
So I would like to nominate Abdullah Khalid, who, submitted their nomination over email, and I have a statement that I can read on their behalf if needed.
Thank you, Jason. I'm also going to, I believe Matthew Garretts is on the line as well. He'd like to be considered for the committee. Matthew, are you still okay with your nomination?
Yes.
Thank you. Matthew, I will give Jason the opportunity to read the statement from the person that he has put forward.
It is an acclamation, so we don't necessarily have to.
Oh, that's a good point. There are 2 seats. All right, so is there any other at-large members that people would like to nominate? Hearing none, Abdullah and Matthew are acclaimed. So I will read the motion and then we will vote in the chat. So be it resolved that council.
It's a single motion for all the elections of committees.
Oh.
So we can just continue to the next committee and then at the end you'll notice it says be it further resolved for every subsequent committee.
Great. All right. So then we will continue on to the Campus Life Advisory Committee. I will read a short statement on the Campus Life Advisory Committee. So the Campus Life Advisory Committee conducts regular evaluation of all programs within the student life portfolio to examine the effectiveness and classification of each service, commission, or working group. It identifies the need for additional services and researchers and developers for services proposed to recommend the creation or termination or change of a mandate of each service to other programs to council. The committee receives a termly service and commission report on behalf of the student council and makes recommendations accordingly. Is there anyone who would like to nominate themselves for this committee? I'm going to begin with the counselor seats. Are there any other counselors who would like to nominate themselves for the Campus Life Advisory Committee? Victoria, do you accept the nomination?
Oh, yes, I do.
Thank you. Last call for nominations. Seeing none, the counselors are acclaimed. We will now move on to the members at large. Are there any members at large that would like to be nominated for this committee?
I would like to just comment at this time that if there are not enough interested at-large members for a given committee, councilors can choose to run for those seats, but they can also, the choice can also be made to leave those seats vacant, in which case it will be left up to each individual committee can like fill those seats later.
Thank you, Jason. Last call for nominations for the at-large seats for the Campus Life Advisory Committee. Hearing none, we will move on to the Internal Administration Committee. I will read a brief introduction to the committee and then feel free to, oh, sorry. Mahita, would you like, are you nominating yourself for the Campus Life Advisory Committee?
Yes, for the at-large seats.
Oh, for the at-large seat.
Yeah.
All right, so we will go back. Great. Do I hear any other nominations for the at-large seats for the Campus Life Advisory Committee? Jason, I believe I see another nomination in the chat. Last call for nominations. Seeing none, these seats are acclaimed. We will now move on to the Internal Administration Committee. I will read a brief introduction. The Internal Administration Committee administers the Federation of Students Clubs and Services in accordance with the provisions of council procedures governing clubs and services. The committee administers services implementation and oversees development of services. It solicits nomination from the Federation Leadership and Campus Life Awards. It organizes, administers, and awards the Federation Leadership Campus Life in accordance with procedure. Is there anybody who would like to nominate themselves for the counselor seats on the Internal Administration Committee? So I see Evelyn and Marie. Is there anyone else who would like to nominate a counselor for the Internal Administration Committee? Seeing none, the counselors are acclaimed. We will now move on to the members at large for the Internal Administration Committee. Are there any members at large that would like to put forward a nomination for this committee? See Catherine in the chat. Last call for nominations for the Internal Administration Committee at large seats. Seeing none, Catherine is acclaimed. We will now move on to the Education Advisory Committee. I will read a brief statement. The Education Advisory Council advises the VP Education on matters relating to academic policy issues at the University of Waterloo, especially those being considered by the Senate and its related bodies. Would anybody like to nominate themselves for this committee? Oh, Ina, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I have a quick question about it. So, I'm currently also the interim VPA, which will be on that committee by default for society. However, if I am interested in nominating myself as a large member, how would the logistics work?
Megan, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, so I think, I don't know if this is explicitly mentioned in procedure, but we will go with how it works for council, which is that you cannot hold more than one seat on a committee. So in that case, Ina, I would recommend that you delegate the MathSoc seat to someone else on your MathSoc executive if you were planning to run for an EAC seat.
Okay, got it. Perfect.
Matthew Schwartz, do you accept your nomination?
For this committee, I'd like to not accept my nomination, no, although I appreciate it.
Thank you. Victoria, would you like to speak?
Hi, so I was just wondering, would my position on COPS, would that make me ineligible to be a counselor for a CLAC?
I can answer.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, in the case of society presidents, you're allowed to sit in the committee, although I believe, were you elected? Yeah, you're elected to one of the counselor seats, which means that your position on the committee will only last for as long as you're on council. I'm not sure if that's like going, because I'm not sure, is your position as society president lasting the entire year?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so then yes, you are allowed to sit there.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Cannon, you have a direct response?
Just as a note, Victoria, I do know presidents do have a non-voting seat on EAC, so if you don't mind not having a vote, you can still attend the meetings.
Pardon, can you say that again?
Yeah, sorry. So all the presidents of the societies have a non-voting seat on EAC. So like if you're not looking for a voting membership or are you just looking for attending the meetings, you can do that just being a president too.
Oh yeah. Yep. I was asking about being a counselor on CLAC.
So I will go through the nominations and just confirm that everyone is comfortable with their nomination. So Stephanie, do you accept your nomination?
Yes, I accept my nomination.
Mahavir, do you accept your nomination?
I do accept my nomination.
Carl, do you accept your nomination?
I do, yes.
Francis, do you accept your nomination?
Yes.
And Jessica Run, do you accept your nomination?
Yes.
Perfect. So what we will do is I'm going to add everybody. I've added everyone into a poll in the main council channel. You will select your top choice. To let everyone know, we will be filling 3 councillor seats on this committee. So everybody can make their way over to the
They should be given the chance to speak.
Oh, correct. Thank you, Jason. Mahavir, would you like to say something? Oh, perfect. Thank you. We'll start with Stephanie. You have 20 seconds.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm a 4th year knowledge integration student. I've been involved with EAC for 2 years now under 2 different VP educations. As an individual, I know quite a bit about the disability support systems on campus, the transfer student process, the petitions process, and also financial aid systems. So I feel as if I'm well equipped to provide insight and support to make better policies that way. I also know quite a bit about divestment on campus, which has, as of last year, got added to the VP Ed portfolio. Similarly, I have familiarity with USA, which is the provincial advocacy body, which USA is a member of.
Thank you, Stephanie. Mahavir, you have 20 seconds.
Thanks, Abby. First of all, I would really appreciate if all you guys vote for me because I've recently also been involved with the VP Education and the currently elected Deputy Speaker with the Associate Dean of Mathematics to raise concerns about the recent credit and no credit amendments and changes that were made to our grading schemes. Other than that, I've also been VP, part of the Education Advisory Council in my school's student council. And I would really appreciate if all you guys vote me based on my experience and my passion for being a part of this committee. Thanks.
Carl, you have 20 seconds.
Thank you. Yeah, so in high school, I was part of many national advisory councils for educational support, such as the Federation of Secondary School Students, where I served as a policy officer to advocate for education and support on that behalf. As well, I was part of the RCMP National Youth Advisory Council, just advocating for education on crime, drugs, and just youth behavior for all of Canadian students. So I believe I have a lot of experience with advocating and for supporting education. So I believe I would make a great candidate for EAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Francis, you have 20 seconds.
Hi. So I'm particularly interested in engaging in the advisory activities related to external governance and societies. I'm eager to contribute to strengthening those connections between our academics on campus to what is happening outside of it. and working with the necessary campus partners to do so. I have experience making such connections, having engaged as an advocate for social justice issues in my communities, and bringing such experience to various advocacy groups, at my high school, at the University of Waterloo, advocating for divestment, and in municipal governance. And I hope to take that further with EAC.
Thank you, Francis. Jessica Run, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Jaskaran, and I'm a first-time counselor, although I have been involved with WUSA as last year's Municipal Affairs Commissioner, where I worked extensively with the city as well as the region, as well as working on the housing report, which will be continued this year. And so as EAC advises on municipal and regional issues, as well as educational policy, I think my experience with this topic and the work that WUSA's and my work on WUSA's housing report will definitely be of use to EAC. And in addition to that, I feel like the fact that I've been involved in both advocacy and governance within WUSA will give me a really valuable perspective to bring to EAC. Thanks.
Thank you, counselors. Would anyone else like to speak before we open voting? Edward would like to declare a conflict of interest and will be refraining from voting in this election. Jason, would you like to speak?
I'd just like to encourage people to consider voting for people such that the committee has people from a variety of different faculties, since that just serves better towards its purpose.
Thank you for that note, Jason. So I will be opening up voting in the council channel. You should see that now. Please make your selection by 2:31. Seeing that everyone has casted their vote, I will be reopening voting. You will cast your vote again for your top choice, and we will select the top three, or then we will have the three counselors who will be appointed to this committee. You can now cast your votes until 2:35. It is now 2:35, so we will close voting. We do have a three-way tie. Jason, would you like to jump in here and
I would suggest that we then say that Stephanie is elected and you do another vote with the remaining 3.
Thank you, Jason. So Stephanie will be elected. I will reopen the vote. Please cast your vote for your top choice. Voting is now open until 2:38. It is now 2:38, so we will close voting, and Francis and Jaskaran have been elected to the committee. I will now open up nominations for the 2 member-at-large seats, or sorry, the 3 member-at-large seats on the Education Advisory Council. Megan, would you like to speak?
Yep, I have 2 nominations. The first is Jin Sia, and the second is Adrian Aliu. I will put those. And I do have statements from them.
Please hold the statement until I call. Mahavir, do you accept your nomination?
I do, thanks.
Guy Brodsky, do you accept your nomination?
He's not in the call, but he had messaged me and requested that I nominate him.
Do you have a statement to read on his behalf?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, Cannon?
Since there are 3 at-large members who are interested, can councillors even run for this seat?
No, they cannot.
Thank you.
Last call for at-large member nominations. The at-large seats are acclaimed. There is a motion on the floor, motion to suspend the rules to increase the councillor membership of EAC to 4 seats. Cannon as the seconder. John, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, considering we had to redo a vote for a 3-way tie for the 2 remaining seats, well, sort of. That's why I'm motioning that we increase by 1 seat to get those 3 that council really couldn't decide on there.
Cannon, would you like to speak?
Nope, John covered it pretty well.
Megan?
Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment, John, and thank you for moving this. I actually have an alternative suggestion, which is instead to change the membership of the committee to include non-voting membership determined by the committee as may be needed from time to time. So that would be a procedural amendment that I would probably bring next council for simplicity. And most of the work that's done at EAC isn't decision and voting based. It's mostly surrounding discussion and policy development. So non-voting members can contribute to the committee almost fully as compared to voting membership. I would suggest that this is a I guess, a more elegant and long-serving solution than suspending the rules. Thanks, John.
John has said that this is within the spirit of what he has proposed, and he accepts the amendment. I'll just exhaust the speaking list first. Stephanie, would you like to speak?
Yeah. I guess this may not super be relevant now, but in terms of what John was proposing, would that be just increasing a councillor's seat, or would it be like impacting the 3 at-large seats?
If you're asking about the original motion, I can answer.
Jason, would you like to speak?
So the proposed motion to suspend, what it would actually do is it would temporarily change the rules, change the seat allocation, which would last for the entirety of this year, or until a seat becomes vacated, whichever comes first. So yeah, I will also comment, I don't see it. First of all, my personal opinion, I don't see it as something you could do. You could not do. Really, EAC could use as many people as it could get, but it is important that anyone then elected actually show up, because this would then increase the quorum needed for when things are actually being voted on. It is also worth noting, if in the spirit of you can also increase non-voting, you don't actually. It's also it's worth noting that EAC is a committee that pretty much never meets in confidential session, so any interested member could just ask to be invited to all the EAC meetings, even without being a non-voting member. Just as anyone, they can ask Megan to be invited to all the meetings, and they can attend, and they can be invited to participate. So I'm just saying, ultimately, if people's interest is just being in the room, no motion of any sort is needed.
Sorry, that still doesn't answer my original question regarding whether or not with this motion, if we decided to have gone ahead with it, if that would affect the number of at-large seats.
No, it would not.
Okay, thank you.
Jason, you are next on the speaking list. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I've made my comments.
Thank you. Alana, you may speak.
Megan, can you just clarify your amendment for the minutes?
Sure. So instead of John's motion, the motion should be that council directs the Vice President Education to bring forward procedure changes, allowing the addition. Jason, point of order.
Actually, sorry, if you were about to say invite, then sure, that. I thought you were actually going to move procedure changes, in which case I would say it's not in order at this time.
Right, yes. So directing the Vice President Education to prepare procedure changes to allow the addition of non-voting members as time to time may be required. And then I'll follow up and bring that back to council. And just for council's information, in the meantime, I will invite Carl and Mahavir to our first EAC meeting.
Thank you.
John and Cannon, do you accept the amendment to your motion?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Thank you.
For amendment, I'll just answer Stephanie's question. For amendment to be friendly, friendly means that no one in the meeting objects to it.
Thank you, Jason. So I will read the motion. I assume we're voting on this.
You just have to ask if anyone objects to the amendment. You don't actually have to open a poll, just like give it a bit of time to see if someone raises an objection.
Thank you, Jason. Does anybody object to the motion on the floor? Hearing none. Jason, can you correct me if I'm wrong? But now that we have passed this motion, are we able to move on to the remaining committee seats?
Yeah, since it effectively amended this main motion. So yeah, we're continuing on with the motion as amended. With the motion to elect people committees as now amended.
Amazing, thank you. So I can move on to the Co-op Students Council?
Yes.
Thank you, Jason. So I'll read out a brief statement about the Co-op Students Council. The Co-op Students Council is a body that meets to facilitate regular feedback channels between undergraduate students, the Cooperative Education Department, and the Federation of Students on issues relating to cooperative education. I will note that all counselors and at-large members of the Co-op Students Council must be enrolled in a cooperative education program. That being said, are there any counselors who would like to nominate themselves for this committee? Jason, direct response.
Yeah, to answer Carl's question, there isn't a limit overall, but there is a specific limit. I think it's between BAC, Internal Funding Committee, and Committee of Presidents, that between those three, you can't be in more than one of those three. But otherwise, there is no limit, although I would probably recommend that you don't put yourself on more than 2 committees just for the sake of overloading yourself.
Ina, do you accept your nomination?
Yes, I do. Thank you to Megan for nominating me.
Catherine, would you like to speak? Catherine, to my knowledge, there are no eligibility requirements for committees that operate in confidential session, but Jason, would you like to jump in?
Not to my knowledge, although yes, if you are going in a confidential committee, you will be required to sign a confidentiality agreement.
Thank you. Javier, would you like to speak?
I would like to take my nomination back for the CSC.
Thank you. Megan, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to provide a note for everyone's information. I have 2 at-large students who are interested in this committee. And for your information, I'll tell you what program they're in. One is in environmental engineering and the other is in recreation and leisure studies.
Jason, go ahead.
I'd just like everyone here to be aware that this committee does have ex officio membership of the VP academics of all the societies or their designates, so just keep that in mind given the 2 society presidents that are running.
Thank you, Jason. Last call for committee nominations. Oh, Delaney, would you like to speak? Delaney, go ahead.
Good. Haha, sorry, my mic was muted. My only question was, in running for this committee, because both Ina and I are running, if our term as presidents ends and we lose our position as counselor, how does that process work afterwards?
Megan, direct response.
Jason can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you lose your seat on the committee if you are no longer a counselor. Delaney, if you were interested, what we could do is essentially suspend the rules and you could run for at-large, which is a seat you could retain for the entire governing year.
Megan, just to clarify, are you making a motion?
No, at this time I am not making a motion. I believe what is happening is that both Delaney and Ina are retracting their interest in a counselor seat for CSC, and then we should dispense with electing the counselors. And then when we move into at-large nominations, we can suspend the rules to allow them to run.
Thank you for clarifying. So does that mean, Ina, would you like your name removed?
Yes, please.
And Delaney as well, I assume?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Jason, can you confirm that we have 3 candidates for the counselor seats?
Yes, unless I missed a chat message.
Last call for counselor nominations. Seeing none, the seat.
So, point of clarification here. Ina, you are president until winter 21?
No, sorry, I got confused. I thought you were talking about when's your graduating term. My graduating term is winter 21, but this is my last term.
As president, okay.
Yeah, I got confused, sorry. I didn't really sleep last night, so.
Thank you for confirming, everyone. Seeing that we have filled the counselor seats for the Co-op Students Council, they are claimed. We will now move on to the member at large seats for the Co-op Students Council. Megan, would you like to speak?
Yeah, so I would like to move to suspend the rules to allow the society president counselors to run for at-large seats for the reason that they will become at-large members before the end of the governing year.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Ina, seconds?
Yes, I did.
So just speaking briefly to this motion, I would like it noted in the minutes that the reason that we're suspending the rules and allowing the society presidents to run for the at-large seats is because they will not be counselors for the entirety of WUSA's governing year.
Ina, would you like to speak?
I think both Presidents Delaney and I have many to offer, and therefore we should give the President the opportunity to do so.
Thank you. Is there anyone who'd like to be added to the speaking list? Okay, seeing none, I guess I will ask if there is anyone against the motion on
This
or,
is,
sorry, Jason.
yeah, I would suggest doing an actual vote because as a motion to suspend, this requires a 2/3 majority.
Oh, thank you, Jason. All right, I am now posting the motion in the chat. Be resolved, the council suspends the rules to allow the society to run for at-large seats. If you are in favor, you will thumbs up. If you are in opposition, you will surprise react. And if you are against, you will sad react.
Point of information, what is abstention and against emojis reaction? Sorry, what are the two reactions?
So opposition is the wow react or the surprised react, and the abstention is a sad face. I'll give everyone a few more seconds to cast their ballot, to note their, or not note, to react to the message. So the motion passes with 18 in favor, 6 in abstention. Would anyone like their vote noted?
Megan, noted in abstention, please.
Thank you, Megan. Delaney also noted an abstention. And Ina noted an abstention. Megan, would you like to speak?
Yes, I have nominations.
Stephanie, do you have something to add to the motion, or do you also have a nomination?
I have a question about the council, the committee voting in general stuff. Should I wait until the end of this, or?
Do you want to send me a personal message and then I can read it out at the end?
Okay.
Just in case I can answer it right on the spot. Unless it's something you think everyone should hear the answer to at this moment.
Yeah, I just heard back from someone who is interested in an at-large seat for CLAC. Is it possible to circle back to that if there were open at-large seats, or is that not appropriate here?
Jason, do you have an answer to this question?
I don't see any reason why you couldn't.
Sorry, this is at-large seat on which committee?
CLAC.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we can. I'd suggest let's just finish this committee. Although we can jump between committees in any order.
Yeah, but I mean, like after this committee, if we could go back before voting for everyone in all committees and ratifying that. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry
we can
for
do that,
the
Stephanie.
confusion.
Thank you. Megan, did you want to bring forward your nominations?
Yes, so for Co-op Students Council at-large nominations, I nominate Clarissa Moriera, Haley Reynolds, Ina Wang, and Delaney Lindstrom-Humphreys.
Are there any other at-large member nominations? Seeing none in the chat, there are 2 seats to be filled here, so we will have to run an election. We will start by allowing the nominated members to read a short, let's do 30-second statement. We'll begin with Clarissa. I believe, Megan, you have a statement to read on their behalf.
Yes. So this statement is for Clarissa. My name is Clarissa Moriera. I'm studying Recreation and Leisure Studies with Co-op Honors. I am very interested in being a part of the Co-op Student Council because I am very passionate about advocacy for students of the University of Waterloo. I am interested in getting more involved with the university and do my part as an international student in the Co-op department. I am very excited to give you my input and be a part of the student's journey.
Thank you. We'll move on to Haley. Do you also have a statement on her behalf?
Yes, so this statement is for Haley. My name is Haley Reynolds. I am going into 2B of Environmental Engineering in the fall. Sitting on Co-op Students Council would allow me to bring my perspective as a female engineering student to the decisions that will impact all students throughout their co-op experiences. Further, the existing connections that I made throughout my time at Waterloo through volunteering during orientation work with the Engineering Society, and other social events, I am able to gather input from a variety of other students if needed. This role will allow me to advocate for students, which is an important task I would love to be involved with.
Ina, you have 30 seconds.
Hi, my name is Ina. I am a 4th-year international student studying math and teaching. I believe I will be a good role for in TSC because as an international student, I faced many struggles about finding certain co-op job that is only limited to an OSAP recipient. And so therefore, by allowing me to be in the role, I can provide input for international students abroad and for more to gain more support for, and advocate for more international students within the university.
Delaney, you have 30 seconds.
Hi, I'm Delaney. I'm a third-year Mech Eng student and currently the president of Engineering Society A, as well as an out-of-province student. Co-op programs are facing major challenges right now, and I want to represent the student voice in these discussions to help CE understand students' concerns and keep students informed about what is happening as well. I was working with the NSOC executive team to connect with the co-op office when COVID changes first hit, and I want to make co-op stronger for all co-op students. All engineering students are co-op students, and I have a lot of chance to hear their opinions, and I've also talked to people in other faculties, mainly science, to try to get a better view of how the co-op changes are affecting them as well. I want to take this role beyond my NSOC involvement to represent co-op students across the entire university. My main focus is on student support through the co-op process, but since experiential education is such a huge part of life for many Waterloo students, I want to do what I can to help advocate for these issues as a whole.
Thank you, Delaney. I will now be opening voting in the council teams. You will select your top choice, and then we will eliminate the person with the least amount of votes, and we'll try again until we have filled both at-large seats. Voting is now open until 3:13.
Has the poll been created? I can't see it.
I can see it on my screen. Are people still having trouble accessing the poll?
Oh, it just showed up.
I'll extend the voting by a minute, so you have till 3:14.
Stephanie, have you seen what you need to see now?
Yes, I have seen many things, including what I needed to see.
We have about 30 seconds left. Voting is now closed. I will be reopening the poll with the remaining candidates.
You actually don't need to reopen since no redistribution of those two eliminated votes can actually affect who.
Oh, okay. So then we elect Ina and Delaney to the at-large seats. Andrew, would you like to speak?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I just had some sort of questions about the voting process. So because we're eliminating the lowest ranked choice in each round, to me, it seems like it might at times not be in people's best interest to vote for their preferred candidate. Because there's multiple candidate seats for some of these elections. I just kind of wanted to bring that up because it seems like we've been being told to also be voting for our preferred candidate.
Jason, would you like to respond?
Yeah, like the short answer is we're trying our best here. Like ideally we would be following pure STV here, which would actually like properly resolve that issue. But like the technical resources to do that, like with like the IT staff needed, didn't allow that option to happen. So this is like our closest approximation to a ranked voting process that we can follow.
Seeing no more questions, are we able to move on to the next committee? Great, so we are going to move on to the Internal Funding Committee. I will read a short statement and then we will begin with the councillor seats. The Internal Funding Committee administers the Enterprise Opportunity and Innovation Fund, the Special Projects Fund, the Student Life Endowment Fund on behalf of the Select Board of Directors and other Federation endowment funds or financing opportunities in accordance with appropriate procedures. Note that the Student Life Endowment Fund, or SLEF, has additionally a joint board of directors between the Federation and the University of Waterloo. Are there any councillors who would like to nominate themselves for the Internal Funding Committee? I'll note that there are 3 councillor seats available. Cannon, would you like to speak?
Just want to bring up a point Jason brought before. If you want to be on BSC, then you cannot be on IFC. So that's something people should keep in mind when they're nominating themselves.
Thank you, Cannon. Angela, do you accept your nomination?
I accept my nomination.
Thank you. Last call for councillor nominations to the Internal Funding Committee. Jason will also add Joseph Ma. Seeing no other nominations, we will be opening this for a vote. So we will allow the councillors who have been nominated to give a 30-second pitch. We'll begin with Stephanie.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm the Environment Councillor. I'm interested in running for IFC, mainly because I've been very involved in funding allocation bodies. I used to be chair of the Waterloo Undergraduate Students Endowment Fund for quite some time, and I've had interactions with the Math Endowment Fund, the Engineering Endowment Fund, and been doing work there. I sat on IFC before, and I understand kind of like the work that needs to be done and how the organization operates. Yeah, it's something that I'm really passionate about, that I really enjoy. Ultimately, it's a body that grants funding for special projects to go through, and I'm just aware of the funding ecosystem within the university.
Thank you. Angela, you have 30 seconds.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angela. So I'm interested in running for the seat because I'm actually new to the counselor system. I haven't been a counselor before, so I kind of wanted to start with experience that would actually help me understand how it works more. And in terms of any sort of experience with managing funds and such things, I am the acting finance director for the University of Waterloo National Society of Black Engineers. So even though it's not exactly the same thing, of course, it's on a different scale, I do sort of have experience in terms of managing funds for clubs and such things. So yeah.
Carl, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you, Abby. Yeah, for sure. So a part of my degree is actually in financial management. So I have experience throughout my courses and throughout my co-op terms with like financial management, with processing statements, inflows of cash and cash outflows, and just managing the financial aspect of this. As well, I'm currently a financial lead for the Canadian Undergraduate Technology Conference happening later this summer this year. And like through over there, like I also deal with all of the financial statements, processing invoices, processing cash inflows and outflows. I believe I have a lot of experience with the financial management aspect of IFC, which allows me to really have the necessary skills and experiences for this committee. Thank you.
And Joseph, you have 30 seconds. Joseph Ma, would you like to speak?
Oh, God. Is my mic working? Oh, dear God.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Cool. I'm a first year student, so unfortunately I don't have much experience dealing with stuff within the university. However, in high school, I was an executive on a robotics club that I helped run, and we had to deal with funding within teams, which allowed me to get a grasp over how to distribute money. And in addition to that, I was bored over the winter break, so I decided to start a company. And of course, I had to deal with all the finances since we cannot afford an accountant. And as we have yet to be audited for tax fraud, I'd like to say I'm doing a good job.
Thank you. Alana, would you like to speak?
Will we be doing the tiered voting, or are we just doing this one voting session? If that makes sense.
Sorry, we're using the same voting system that we've been using. Megan, Director Response.
Yeah, Alana, I think what you're asking is if we're going to go vote once or vote multiple times. It depends on the outcome of the vote. So if, for example, one candidate only gets 3%, then no reallocation of weights would change who the first, second, and third are.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Megan. I will now be opening up voting for the Internal Funding Committee. You should see it in the chat now. You have until 3:26 to cast your vote. I am now closing voting. So Stephanie, Angela, and Carl have been elected to fill the 3 counselor seats on IFC. I will now open up nominations for the 2 at-large member seats of the Internal Funding Committee. Would anybody like to nominate an at-large member? Alana has nominated Joseph Ma. Joseph, do you accept this nomination?
Yep.
Thank you. Stephanie, do you have a statement on behalf of your nominee?
I do not have a statement, but I can speak on his interests and abilities for this role.
Thank you. Depending on how many people put up nominations, that may or may not be necessary.
Okay.
Last call for at-large nominations for the Internal Funding Committee. Hearing none, the seats are acclaimed. We will now move on to the Budgets and Appropriations Committee. I will read a short statement. The Budget and Appropriations Committee assists with the budget preparation process in accordance with the Budgets and Appropriations Policy, as well as council and board procedures governing budgets and additional appropriations. It reviews all commercial operations and restricted budgets before they receive approval by the Board of Directors and provides recommendation for adoption or otherwise any and all amendments to those budgets. I will now be opening up nominations for the councillor seat. There's 1 seat available for this committee. Last call for nominations for the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Seeing none, I will now give the nominees the opportunity to provide short statements. We will begin with Chanel. Would you like to speak?
Thank you.
Hey guys, I think especially in a time where we're all in a position where revenue is obviously decreasing, especially after being on academic and Senate committees of my campus and talking with Waterloo representatives, not only is campus struggling, but students itself are struggling financially. And I think that it is really important that we really focus on the budgeting and procedures that are happening, not only to represent domestic students, but also being an international student once myself, international student. And I think I would really like to help and be on this committee to help focus on budgeting, as many students are struggling, if not yourselves, many people we do know. So I would really love if you guys would nominate me and help me get to be on this committee. Thank you.
Matthew, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. So I'm Matthew, one of the current math counselors. In terms of my motivation, I'm really curious and I have big interest in WUSA's financial position and sort of ongoing finances, especially when we're in this very, very strange time with dropping revenues and such. Although I'm very interested beyond it as well. And that's my motivation for running. I've got a lot of smaller scale budget experience from the Mathematics Society on their board and on their executive. And I've also got a good ongoing financial education stemming from the business degree I'm studying down the road at Wilfrid Laurier. So I think I can bring a lot to this council, both in this strange time now and beyond it. And I look forward to the chance. Thank you.
And Yaro, would you like to speak?
Hello, yes, thank you very much. My name is Jairo. I am in my 3A. My program is Arts and Business. I'm majoring in economics. And in terms of my motivation to run for this position, it's because I would like to basically bring a new and fresh perspective to the Budget and Appropriations Committee. I would like to help with the reviewing of the commercial operations and basically bring ideas on how we can cut costs and expenditures during this very harsh situation. In terms of my experience and kind of background, I have experience with running a club as a president and as a treasurer for another one, in which both had to create a budget, and in my last one, basically, I had to create a budget for a very specific event. And my education, well, I already mentioned that I'm majoring in economics, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I will open up voting. Oh, sorry, John, would you like to speak?
Sure. I'm not using my headphones right now, so bear with me. I would like to ask each of the candidates to speak to their financial experience, knowledge, or qualifications if they haven't already done so. I know most have. I didn't get to hear all of them, unfortunately. And their experience looking at the budgets. Being on this committee, you may be asked to help prepare reports on financial matters, which could eventually be made public. I'm asking this as the outgoing vice chair of the committee.
Thank you, John. Chanel, direct response.
So I'd like to talk about my financial experience and knowledge. So like Jairo, I'm also in arts and business economics, but my position on council, I am a representative of my campus, St. Jerome's. So I am the vice president currently of finance. So I have helped with many different budget proposals and reports that we have created for St. Jerome's. So I am also in charge of reporting all financial matters to not only St. Jerome's University, but anything matters that have to do with students. So I believe that I do have a lot of experience with that. I've also participated in many different business company simulations as members of representing the finance section. So I have done many different financial reports.
Matthew, would you like to speak?
Of course, yes. As I already touched upon a little bit, I have an actual educational background from business degree at Wilfrid Laurier, where I've studied accounting and finance, managerial accounting and financial accounting specifically, which I think are really big assets walking in. I also have a little bit of experience with student society budgets, again, from my experience with MathStock on their board and on their executive team, where I handled both my own budget and helped approve and look through, board and council, where I handled my own budget and approved and went through budgets for other parts of the society. And that really sums up, I think, what I can bring to the table. Thanks.
Jairo, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. In terms of my experience with the WUSA, as I mentioned before, I was the president of the Association of Latin American Students, and what I did there was basically just create a budget for the entire term. And the second one is as treasurer of UNICEF, UW UNICEF, and what I did there is help with this gala, and I basically led a team create a budget and presented that to Seneca Bailing and got approved for the IFC fund, and that was last fall. And my last internship, basically with another coworker and I created a project for ourselves in terms of a cost-benefit analysis for a quarterly business review, yeah. And basically that was essentially in order to approve a different kind of approach to it. So yeah, that's pretty much it about my experience and qualifications.
Thank you all. Oh, Chanel, you have another direct response?
Sorry, there is something I forgot to mention. I also wanted to mention to the council that I worked in the accounts receivable department for Orkin, which was a pest control company, on co-op as an internship. So I did do a lot of accounting reports for that. And I just wanted to re-mention that.
Thank you all. I will be opening up voting in the council channel until 3:40 p.m. Voting is now closed. And Matthew has been elected to the Budget and Appropriations Committee. I am now opening up nominations for member at-large seats for Budget and Appropriations Committee. I received two at-large member nominations, Matthew Garrett's And John, I believe you also have someone to nominate.
That is correct.
Would you like to put their name in the chat?
Sure thing. He has accepted his nomination. Here is a write-up. He comes recommended by both myself and I believe Seneca had replied to that email recommending him also.
Thank you. Matt, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I was interested in this position if there was no one else running, but seeing as there is someone else running, I am good to withdraw.
Thank you, Matt. Last call for at-large member nominations.
The nomination for Gyro is out of order since there are insufficient at-large members interested.
Thank you, Jason. Seeing no more nominations in the chat, Jason, did you have a statement to read on Abdullah's behalf?
Yes, I do. So he says that I have experience in finance, handling a $300 million portfolio while working at the Ministry of Economic Development. I understand the importance of creating and implementing an efficient budget and want to make sure that there is accountability and oversight on the WUSA budget. During my current co-op, I am working as a business strategy consultant at Accenture and believe my skills can easily transfer to this role.
And John, would you like to read the statement on behalf of David?
Sure thing. David is a fourth-year student studying actuarial science and statistics with work experience in the financial sector. He is a returning member of the committee and has been an asset for the past year. David was particularly valuable for his insight while consulting him on the preparation of a cash flow analysis, which was ultimately the basis for decisions leading to a revamp of our financial position. It is because of those actions taken in the last year that we are today able to weather the storm of COVID-19 from a financial perspective. David has also assisted in many matters, which I cannot express without breach of confidentiality, but I can guarantee that in my capacity as Vice Chair of Budget and Appropriations over the past year, David has been a strong asset. I highly recommend David for this position due to both his professional qualification and contextual experience. I'd be genuinely surprised if there was another at-large member better suited for this position than him. And quoting from Seneca Velling, the outgoing Vice President Operations and Finance who chaired the committee, I would highly recommend David for his excellent work ethic. I give my unreserved recommendation to Council that he be re-elected to the committee.
Thank you, John. I am now opening up voting until 3:47. All right, I'm going to close voting. David has been elected to the at-large seat on the Budgets and Appropriations Committee. We will now move on to the Elections and Referenda Committee. I will read a short statement. The Elections and Referenda Committee, through the Chief Returning Officer of the Federation of Students, is responsible for the oversight and the fair and impartial execution of all elections, by-elections, and referenda administered by the Federation of Students. I'm going to read the note found on the agenda. Normally, at least 2 elected members of ERC should be at-large members. Under no circumstances shall any member of ERC be a candidate for an active election or by-election, join a referendum committee, or endorse or campaign on behalf of any candidate, team, or referendum position. I am going to open this up to all members. Please put your nomination in the chat. There are no nominations for the Elections and Referenda Committee. Megan, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I would strongly recommend to counselors to consider sitting on this committee. It's a great opportunity to look at how our elections work. And if you were holding back because you're not sure if you're going to be, I don't know, running for executive next year or something like that, if you have not yet decided, you can sit on this committee and you can always resign from the committee later on. In case you do develop a conflict of interest or an interest in running for a position in an election.
Jason, direct response?
Yeah, so for time commitment for this committee, you would only, generally the committee would only be doing anything when there's either a by-election going on or during the general election in the winter, in which case the time commitment, there would probably be for each election, probably 2 meetings, one depends, possibly one during if there are issues to resolve, and then there would be one immediately upon the closure of votes in order, likely at an early morning time, in order to certify the results. So it is actually a fairly light commitment.
Andrew, do you accept your nomination?
Yeah.
Thank you. The 4 seats on the Elections and Referenda Committee are now filled. That means that they are acclaimed. We will now be moving on to the board committees. We will start with the Strategic and Long Range Plan Committee.
It's my suggestion that we actually do that added entry now since it's related.
Oh, yes, of course. Good call, Jason. Stephanie, can you refresh my memory? Are you looking to have another election for the at-large seats for the Campus Life Advisory Committee?
Yes. And I believe that would go to a vote to determine whether or not we would even do that.
We haven't actually formally approved these people. Like, we're going to a motion to amend when this is all done, so we can still like jump back as now without a motion.
Okay. Yeah, then actually Victoria can carry on with this. Wait, give me a second.
Hi. Hi. I just wanted to nominate Mustafa Saidi, and I wanted to talk to his skills and his like assets for the CLAC if now is the right time.
He's going to be acclaimed, so you don't actually have to, but if you can please
great.
type his
Love
name
that.
into the chat, that would be helpful.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Victoria.
Wait, so just to confirm, there were additional seats available for at-large for CLAC?
No, there are not, but because actual at-large people supersede councillors, it's now those 2 councillors that are going to compete in an election.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Great. So what that means is the 2 councillors who have been nominated for the vacant at-large seat will now have an opportunity to speak. So we will begin with Mahida.
Hi, yeah, so I feel like this position is the best for me because I would like to make a difference between the student community in terms of like student engagement and how better we can support the entire student family, especially within the satellite campuses, as I am the Stratford rep, and I feel like sometimes satellite campuses, especially like Stratford as GBDA is fairly new, we kind of get left out of things. So in order to encompass satellite, in order to encompass satellite campuses as well as the main campuses to make everyone feel like they are part of the Waterloo family.
Yeah.
Hi, so my name is Samaya, and I'm interested in running for this seat as I've been very involved with WUSA over the past year, especially through my job on promo team. And through this, I have been able to have the chance to connect with students in different faculties and varying programs to hear about their experiences on campus, as well as any concerns they may have pertaining to their day-to-day campus interactions and activities. And I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to represent these students on the committee and be able to bring their concerns to light. And I would also like to address concerns that students off main campus may have as well. I would like to include students on all of the different campuses and make sure that everybody's campus experience is the best that it can be throughout their years here at Waterloo. Thank you.
Thank you all. I will now be opening up voting in the council teams, and voting will be open until 3:58. I'll give everyone 20 more seconds to cast their vote. Voting is now closed. And Mahita has been elected to the Campus Life Advisory Committee at large seat. We will now move on to the counselor nominations for the Chief Returning Officer hiring panel. So the CRO shall be hired by a panel consisting of the Secretary of the Corporation, the President, and one elected counselor selected by the Students' Council. Jason, would you like to speak a little bit to this hiring panel?
Yeah, this hiring panel, I think this is actually going to be its first iteration because this resulted as a result of election procedure changes that went through part of the way through last year. So yeah, I can't imagine this would be, obviously this would be a short-term commitment for, well, that from whatever point the decision is made to start the hiring process. Yeah.
Thank you, Jason. Are there any nominations for the CRO hiring panel? John, would you like to speak?
Hi, yes. Was this committee constituted as part of a policy?
The requirement of this hiring panel is specified within election procedure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Last call for nominations for the Chief Returning Officer hiring panel. Catherine, do you accept your nomination? I will ask that the candidates provide a 30-second statement, starting with Vicky.
So I'm still just getting used to the RUSA, but I feel like when I was reading like all the panels and I was seeing there was a hiring panel, I have some experience with hiring like individuals for various positions and previous college work, and my mom also really instilled me how to hire proper people because she's an HR manager. So I think it'd be a good fit for me.
Catherine, you have 30 seconds. Catherine, would you like to speak? Catherine, would you like me to read out your statement? Okay, so I'm going to read it as it is written. Hi, I'm Catherine, and I've been on WUSA Council as a math counselor since April. I've also been on MathSocs election committee and served as MathSocs CRO this past year, so I feel that I have plenty of applicable experience towards this committee. Thank you, Catherine. I will now be opening up voting until 4:06 p.m. I will now be closing voting. Catherine has been elected. We will now move on to the board committees and begin with the Strategic Long Range Plan Committee. I'll read a short statement. The Strategic Long Range Plan Committee is intended to support the President in fulfilling their strategic duties and drive the development and implementation of the organization's long-range plan. I will begin with the counselor seats. There are 2 counselor seats available. Are there any counselors who would like to nominate themselves for this committee? Last call for nominations.
Matthew is now joining.
Can the person who just joined the call please state their name for the record?
Jason, do we only have 2 nominations so far?
Yes.
So last call for nominations. Hearing none, Amanda and Carl are acclaimed.
Amanda is now exiting.
We will now move on to the member at large seat for the Strategic and Long Range Plan Committee. I have Matthew Garretts. Are there any other nominations for the Strategic and Long Range Plan Committee? Hearing none, Matthew Garretts is acclaimed. We will now move on to the Planning, Student Spaces, and Works Committee. I will read a short statement. The Planning and Student Spaces and Works Committee oversees and assists with the management of the Student Life Center, other student buildings, commons, and spaces. They develop a capital improvement plan, accessibility plan, and ensure compliance with statutory, regulatory, and policy obligations for student spaces, buildings, and facilities. And then make recommendations to the board on all matters. There is 1 counselor seat available. Please indicate your nomination in the chat. Last call for nominations. I will now allow the counselors nominated to provide a 30-second statement. Mahavir, would you like to start?
Thanks, Abby. I would like to nominate myself, and that is because I am part of the CLAC as well, and that shows like my relationship with the students as well, and my passion for improving the student life. And I think this committee also is indirectly focused towards the betterment of students and like the spaces that are provided to them. And considering myself using a lot of those student spaces, I want to improve those a lot. And I think that this will be the perfect opportunity for me to do that for myself and other students at University of Waterloo.
Jaskaran, you have 30 seconds.
All right, thanks, Abby. I'm Jaskaran from the Faculty of Environment and specifically in the planning program. In addition to my passion for planning, infrastructure, and enhancing student life, I've also worked in my co-op jobs as a civil engineering inspector, as well as in the capital planning unit at Ontario's Ministry of Infrastructure. So I think researching policy and budgeting and seeing capital plans come to fruition at the ministry was a really great experience, and I think that I can apply that here as well. My construction experience will really align well with the goals of the Planning, Student Spaces, and Works Committee, and it will definitely help me guide development in a way that's both responsible as well as realistic. Thanks.
Thank you all. I will now be opening up voting until 4:17 p.m. Thirty seconds remain to cast your vote. I am now closing voting. Jaskaran has been elected. We will now move on to the member at large seats on the Planning and Student Space and Works Committee. There is one seat available. Are there any members at large that wish to put their name forward? Mahavir, do you accept your nomination?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Last call for member-at-large nominations. Seeing none, Mahavir is acclaimed. I would like to motion to amend the motion to fill in the blanks for the councillor and at-large member elections. I'll move and Cannon is seconding. Are there any opposed to the motion? Hearing none. It's a friendly amendment.
Just in case anyone's unclear, what we just approved was filling in every blank spot throughout the entire committee motions with the names of the people we've come up with. So now all those blanks have been filled in except for like the 1 or 2 remaining vacancies.
Thank you, Jason. We will now have a vote on item 7.1 as amended. I will post that in the chat. Go ahead, Ina.
So because most of us has been elected or claimed as councillor or been amended to the individual committees, how does voting would work? Wouldn't we all have some sort of conflict of interest in that case?
Honestly, you can, like, some people abstain at this point, some people don't. It doesn't really matter since the actual decision of whether or not you are on the committee already happened. So really, the way I see it, you can just, it's fine to vote in favor of this.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you, Jason, for clarifying.
Megan, okay, never mind. So I'm posting in the chat now. Standard rules, if you are in favor, thumbs up. In opposition, the surprise react, and sad for abstention. Motion passes with 20 in favor. And I'd like to motion to destroy the ballots. Can I get a seconder? Cannon seconds. So we'll now be voting on the motion. Be it resolved that all ballots at this meeting for officers and committees be destroyed. Again, if you are in favor, thumbs up. In opposition, you will surprise react and sad react for abstentions. The motion passes with 25 in favor. We will now be moving on to item 7.2, scheduling of meetings. Be it resolved that the remaining regular meetings of council for the spring term be scheduled for June, July, August, each starting at 10:30 a.m. I'd like to motion to fill in the blanks with the results of the poll, which is.
You need a seconder first for the main
sorry.
motion.
Thank you, Jason. Can I get a seconder for the main motion? Not of seconds. And now I would like to motion to amend to include the results of the poll. So it will read, be it resolved that the remaining regular meetings of council for the spring term be scheduled for June 7th, July 12th, and August 9th, each starting at 10:30 a.m. All those opposed?
You have to ask for a seconder on that amendment.
Thank you, Jason. Can I get a
I'll
seconder?
second Cannon.
I'll repeat the dates, but you'll also see them in the chat. Oh, thank you, Jason. I'll repeat them aloud. June 6th, July 12th, and August 9th. This is based on the results of the poll. Yes, Nada, June 6th is a Saturday. Ina, would you like to speak?
Yeah, like I know this is like I'm probably gonna just mark myself absent, but I don't know if I will be available on June 6th, just because flights is weird. That just like if I can't make it, I apologize in advance for my absence. Otherwise, I'll try my best.
You're able to, if you know in advance, you are able to send speaker@wusa.ca an email to have an excused absence.
Yeah, I will do that.
Thank you, Ina. We will now vote on the motion, the main motion as amended. Be it resolved that the remaining regular meeting of council for the spring term be scheduled for June 7th, July 12th, and August 9th, each starting at 10:30 a.m. Again, if you are in favor, you will thumbs up. If you are opposed, you will surprise react. And if you are in abstention, June 7th. Oh, sorry. Mahavir, do you have a question?
Are all these like weekends or some of these are weekdays?
These are all weekends.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome. Again, be it resolved that the remaining meeting of council for the spring term be scheduled for June 7th, July 12th, and August 9th, each starting at 10:30 a.m. If you are in favor, you will thumbs up. If you are against, you will surprise react. And if you are abstaining, you will sad react. The motion passes with 21 in favor and 1 abstention. Would anyone like their vote noted? We're moving on to item 8 of the agenda, new business. Any counselor may raise any item of concern during new business by proposing a motion or topic of discussion. A 2/3 majority vote is required for consideration of the item to proceed. Does anybody have new business to bring up at this time? Ina, would you like to speak?
Oh, sorry. I thought it was announcements. I was speaking in the announcement section. Sorry.
Thank you. Hearing no new business, we will move on to announcements. Any counselor may make an announcement not exceeding 1 minute in duration, which may be followed by up to 2 minutes of follow-up questions. No motions may be introduced from an announcement. Ina, would you like to start?
Yes, I would like to first say to all the people who are studying classes tomorrow, good luck on online classes.
Thank you, Ina. Megan, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that my report had a few action items in the TLDR section, which I don't think anyone acted on during the questions part of my report. So if you didn't read through the agenda, including the executive reports, make sure you go back and do that. Reading the executive reports is an important part of the meeting so that you're well prepared to ask any questions. Okay, that's true, I guess. People did ask me questions, but no one told me what they thought about my report format, and that's what I really wanted to know. So shoot me an email if you have any thoughts about that.
Thank you, Megan. Javier, would you like to speak?
I just want to say good luck to all those kids who are taking courses during co-op and starting tomorrow. So yeah.
Thank you. Are there?
I have a question for Megan then. Would you be okay with us tagging you in relevant Reddit things we see?
I would prefer it if you shot me a message with a link to the post, but barring that, yes, you can tag me.
Okay, just wondering. Thanks. I'll message to you.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Are there any more announcements to be made? Hearing none. The next regular meeting of council is scheduled for June 7th, starting at 10:30 a.m. on Microsoft Teams. You will receive calendar invites from me following this meeting for the remaining meetings of council for the spring term. Now we're moving on to item 10, adjournment. Be it resolved that the chair adjourns the meeting at 4:36 p.m. Can I get a seconder? Delaney, seconds. All right. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Jason, am I missing anything before we leave?
Julie. So no.
Great. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Thank you all.
Mahi is now exiting.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys later.
Bye, goodbye, goodbye.
So Jason, out of curiosity, what was your role during this meeting officially?
Officially, I'm just an interested at-large member. And I should actually be noted in the minutes as such if Alana is still here.
That makes sense. I was just curious. I didn't feel like it was relevant, but I was just curious.
Fun fact, I'm going to remain an at-large member for at least the entirety of this term, so you can continue to see me.
I should have nominated you for the at-large position on PPC.